Hey guys, how we doing? Black and White Christianity coming at you for another podcast. We're so thankful that you're here wherever you are around the world that you're listening in. It's me and Tyreek tonight. It's just us. We had a guest planned, but unfortunately, they had emergencies and they weren't able to be here. So, literally just canceled like 10 minutes ago. So, as you can imagine, there's not a lot of time to prepare anything. So we're just going to do a little bit of discussion amidst ourselves, a little off the cuff improv, if you will. Of course, with the biblical worldview, Tyree worldview, not worldview. So, how you doing, buddy?
I'm blessed, man. I'm here. We're ready to do this thing.
And how's life? Huh? Talk to me.
I don't know if you can hear it, but life is loud these days, and it's going to get a lot louder as time goes on.
Daddy of three. Daddy of three. You go from man to zone at that point. You understand? Like there's none of the I got this one and you got this one. It's like you stay in the living room and I'm gonna be in the
I'm having my first boy, so I'm pretty excited about that. And
hey.
Yeah, man, I think I'm gonna be a little selfish on that one. Like the baby's crying, that's me. You got the other two. Let me holler at him. Come here, son. Nah, I'm just kidding.
So, we're just going to. So, what's been going on? Like, what have you seen day to day? What's been on your brain? I'll be honest, while you think about it, something that's come across my mind a little bit is the why there is value in confessing sins. Let me say this, prefacing my statement. You've heard this statement, right? I'm gonna die with that. I'm gonna take that to my grave. Like I've thought about that a lot this week, and it's this idea that I'm not ever gonna tell anybody this thing that I did or had done to me or whatever, and I'm gonna just die with this thing. Now, I'm not saying that it's a sin, but there's always a chance that it could be, and there's a bit of shame and guilt that comes with it. And the scriptures tell us to confess our sins not only to God but to one another. And so I've been back and forth about that because the last couple generations, our parents, that phrase is used a lot. You know what I mean? I'm sure you've heard it, that phrase. So that's just been what's on my mind.
Yeah, in a way, I want to just touch on that a little bit, man. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the week, and I guess I just want to share it with the guests. A lot, like sometimes people find the person that they could confess their sins to that's gonna like pat them on the back and say it'll be all right, you'll get them next time, type stuff like that. And it's kind of a dangerous like balance that you have to play when you're the individual that's being confessed to, I guess. You don't want to jump down their throat and be like, oh, you're messing up and like this is crazy. But you also don't want to make them feel comfortable and what they got going on. You don't like, so like it's a really tense scenario to kind of be in because you want to be a decent friend. Nobody's good. And it's rough. It's rough to have that kind of balance with talking to people about their sins that they've confessed to you. And then you also don't want to be a hypocrite if you find yourself in the same kind of boat. You're also going through the same kind of struggles and stuff like that. So you want to sympathize and empathize, but at the same time, you don't want to be like, man, I don't know what's up with you.
I put a short out about this very thing. And the one comment I got on YouTube, by the way, I don't know if I've said this before, but I want to say it again just briefly. We are transitioning all of our content to a YouTube channel called All for Jesus. So if you're looking for some of our content on YouTube, it's on a channel called All for Jesus. And if you put All for Jesus and then put Walter Mitchell, it will come up no problem. It has a little cross emblem. So with that being said, I put out a short on this very topic, and I got a comment from a guy in the UK. And the comment from the guy in the UK, I'm going to actually read it because I thought, I don't know. I've never been to the UK, so I don't have any understanding of what's going on. But he says, not in the UK. You don't share with any Christian in the UK, but you can tell God. Plus, some of us don't have anybody to tell. And so there's that level because of our society, not only in the West, but across the sea and in different places. People just don't have anybody. People are just isolated and they're lonely and they don't have anybody to talk to or to confess their sins to. Um, or to tell what's going on. And I think really people are struggling right now. Post COVID, people are still having a hard time, with finding, uh, people that are worth their salt anymore. Everybody's so used to getting scammed or burned. If you've sold anything online, you know what I'm talking about. It's just so many people are out there, and to trust anybody today, with your precious time is such a risk. So people just essentially say, to heck with it, I'm not going to mess with nobody. And that has its side effects as well. And so one of the things, and I'm going to read this, James 5, verse 16 says, therefore confess your sins to each other, pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of the righteous person is powerful and effective. See, we don't understand that part of the confession is so the other person can then pray for you, right? If they don't know what you struggle with or how you're sinning, I have no way to pray effectively for you. So there's this other level to that too.
Absolutely. And on the human side, a lot of people, I know this for a fact because I was definitely like this. Um you don't want to be so open with people because then later on you start like people like, man, I remember when you did, and it's just like, I didn't tell you that for you to run it in my face later on. It's like,
Mm.
this isn't a bargaining chip. This is me being vulnerable, trying to put myself out there and like, get help from the brothers and sisters in the Lord. And like, I don't want you to use my past to bludgeon me. Like, and it's too easy to do that if you deal with like, if you still have that mentality of like, giving out jabs and like all of that jesting and all of that stuff like that, man. It's so hard sometimes to bite your tongue in that way, especially when the other person is lightly doing it. So like, man, yeah, it's a minefield. It's a minefield being
Well,
a
let me ask
Christian.
this question. How do you go about then knowing the risk and still trying to put yourself out there in such a way to go find a friend and put and trust somebody enough with that kind of information? How you do
I'm not the guy to ask for that. I'm gonna just keep it real.
that?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong guy. Yo. You're asking the wrong guy. I told you this on many occasions. I have you, I have my wife, my children, and God. Like, yo, like that's the whole of my circle, really. And
But
some people might say that that's like, oh man, I feel for you, guy, but like they don't know what true friendship is. Like when you have a really good friend, you don't need that many.
mm, that's
Um,
true.
so.
That's true. I would say to avoid event. First of all, find your friends in the body of
Mhm,
believers. Let's
mhm.
just start there. Where to find a good friend? Somebody that also actively follows Jesus, not just in word alone.
Right.
Secondly, be all right with being hurt. That's just part of it. That's part of dating somebody or courting somebody. It's the same process with a friend. You have to essentially put yourself out there and be vulnerable in hopes that you may be running into somebody else of the same cloth. Now, there are going to be times where you run into somebody who's not of the same cloth and takes advantage of you or abuses that particular vulnerability, like what Tyreek said. You confess something to them, and then you found yourself in a scenario, and there was a girl around they wanted to impress, and so they use that as a step off point to shame you and make themselves look good. Ask me how I know those things. So
Mhm.
that's all these different elements to finding a friend. But I would say, this is my own person, don't be so discouraged that you just don't do it at all. You just say, screw it. Nobody's worth my time. Nobody's worth, my heart or any of this. And so you just shut down. And I'm not saying that's what you do because you have me and you have your wife, but a lot of people don't even have a me or a one other friend, or a wife. They're just alone. And when you're
Mhm.
alone, the demons really tear you up and they really get after you, and your own flesh gets after you. And whatever sin you're dealing with, guess what? You're not convicted other than the spirit within you, but you don't. And see, I've dealt with this. You don't know how bad you've gotten. That's the scary part, right? you've isolated so long and you've sat in something so long that it's actually grown quite substantially, but it's like the frog in the pot. You don't know how bad you've gotten
Right.
because no one's there to go, ooh, we're way down the rabbit hole from the last time, we spoke. And so,
I know it's pretty common, but just for some people that may not be getting it, or in America we have some idioms, in other countries they might not have it. So like, can you explain the frog in the pot
hmm,
for people who may not
frog in the
understand
pot.
the
I mean, it was an
analogy?
experiment done at I think it was Oxford long ago. And what they essentially did was they took a frog and they put it in boiling water and it hopped out. And then they took a frog and put it in cold water and just lightly turned up the temperature degree by degree, and the frog sat there until he
Acclimated.
boiled to death because it was a
Mm-hmm.
gradual instead of a bam. And I can't live here. I got to get up out of here. But as the temperature gradually increased, his body adjusted to this new environment, and that's what we do. We adjust to our new sin and levels of sin and depravity in sin because it's a gradual thing. It's like somebody gaining weight or losing weight. As you're doing it, you don't see it. But if somebody was out of your life for 6 months and saw you again, they'd be like, whoa, you lost weight. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
did I? You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So
Yep.
it's this gradual thing. Let's just talk for a
For
minute.
sure.
How are you dealing with the price of everything today?
Oh man,
Dude.
before I even get on the price, one of the things that I wanted to talk about and bring up, which can roll into that, is you know there's a and it rolls into that, there is an idiot tax for not knowing some stuff. Like, you're out here ignorant about some things, that you pay the price for that. And I me personally, I'm so tired of having to lightly be an expert on everything I'm trying to do, even if I'm paying somebody to do this thing. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm paying
Mhm.
you for your knowledge and your understanding on the topic or the matter or the this or the that. And I have to lightly know about it myself to be able to say, that's not a good thing. Like, you're not doing that right. Like, and that's crazy that we're in this kind of society now where it's like, you not only have to pay them, their fee or their wage or whatever the case may be, you also got to give them a little bit on top so they can do the right thing. It's like nuts. It's absolutely crazy, and that ties into the prices of things. So but I wanted to specifically talk about this, like, this having to know a lot about, I mean, know a little bit about a lot lately to be able to get anything to go. Because I'll give you an example. I bought a car, and I'm gonna try to speed this up. I bought a van, actually, and I bought it from a dealership. I didn't want to deal with people to people kind of stuff or whatever. I just wanted to buy it out cash, get my vehicle, and call it a day. And I went through that whole entire process, thought everything was good, this and that and this. And then later on, they give me a call and they're like, "Oh, we can't get the title." So where does that leave us? Like, oh yeah, well, we're gonna put you on some dealer plates for more than 30 days. Highly illegal. I didn't know that at the time, but I know it now. That's not legal. And I was driving around on a vehicle that was not registered to me. I had it insured, but it's not registered to me because I never got the title or anything like that. So I couldn't register it. So I ended up getting fined by the DMV, and um, I had to
Like
buy a new
everybody's out to
battery
get
for
you
it.
anymore.
Yeah, man, I did all of this stuff. And I mean, like, I want our audience to know that if you're in the United States, like, make sure you're asking, like, yo, do you have the title? Do you have these different kind of things? Like, kind of like cut all the nonsense at the door, because they'll play this game and push you out, and then they'll push you past what is called a statute of limitations, or a point where you can't do anything now but wait. And yeah, you just, if you don't know this kind of stuff, you just get hemmed up. So like I said, that pretty much, I'm just trying to, like, there's a good ending to that. I ended up getting a vehicle and everything was good, and I turned that back in. But it's like that ignorance tax, man, it's going to get you every single time. So if you're looking into doing anything where you're going to be spending a decent chunk of change, like before you just jump out there, don't let what is that, desperation or anything like that come into your mindset while you're doing stuff. Make sure you do a little bit of research around everything that goes into that before you go to get into that kind of business or that or whatever. It's just getting crazy out here. You talked
I'll
about
be
the
honest. I'll be
you,
honest. The amount that they charge for repairing
yep,
vehicles is absolutely astronomical.
yes,
Me personally, I can't get away from at least $1,000. I mean, that's like base. That's like when you walk in, it's like, all right, we'll take a look at it at least $1,000. So like, we'll just start there. It's like that's where the bidding begins. Let's start the bidding at 1,000, and it's like and that's just to get you inside of the bay, it seems like. And it's like, okay, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and now that'll be $2,700. And it's like, that's more than half of what I paid for this vehicle. And so, like, what are we doing right now?
Mhm.
Let's not even talk about like what McDonald's is charging for their regular menu meals anymore. $11, $12. That used to be like Culver's and Chick-fil-A and Arby's special type stuff. You would have them prices. Now we're lowest of the low, and I say that because that's where I view McDonald's at. They're charging that level for their food now. What's the common man to do? I don't know how all of you guys that are listening, how you were doing groceries before this happened and everything got dumb, but we are getting substantially less with the same amount of money being spent.
Yeah, or
It
more.
is getting difficult out here, and I don't really know where it's all going to end up. I know, like what you said, Tyreek, it sucks that you pay for a service and you lightly. It's like you have to pay for a premium too. It's a premium they're asking for their service, but they're giving mediocre at best. And it's like I
At
lightly
best.
have to know about brakes so then I can take my wheel off and be like, did y'all really do it? If for all of that, I'll just do it.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
why am I have to double check now? To a point, we should do that on some things. I would encourage every single one of you when you're in church on Sunday to open your Bibles up to where the pastor is preaching from to make sure he's not saying things that aren't biblical. We should all do that. It's holding somebody accountable. He's no different than you and I. So, with that being said, but for me to have to double back on my taxes because the person that's doing my taxes was like, oh, I did need to do that, didn't I? It's like, no, man, no, I don't need you to flop on that.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely you have to keep your eyes open. You can't be falling asleep behind the wheel. You just truly can't trust people to do things anymore. You have to be vigilant. You got to be watching. Like it's
Tell you something.
nuts, man. It's
Cook at
nuts.
home. Cook
Yeah,
at
yeah,
home.
yeah,
Y'all
yeah.
need to. Everybody needs to stop relying on these eateries and services out here because they are gouging you. Because we're such a comfort and convenient society, we don't want to come home and prep food and season food and cook food and plate food. And by the time you're done, you know that was partly a job. And now you get to sit down and eat. We're so used to being like, I'll take a number 3 and let me get some of this dessert and that big gulp. Appreciate it. And you drive away, you go home. It's all about, I want to get to what I want to do faster. And if I have to cook food, I don't get to do that. So
Hmm.
let me ask this. You're on the road more than me. I used to be on the road, but you work service. How are the people out there on the roads today? How have
I've
you seen
gotten
that change?
more middle fingers in the last month than I've ever gotten in my entire time driving on the road. It is getting crazy. I mean, like, granted, I have a work vehicle and I can't go past a certain speed, but like, it's ridiculous, man. It's even signs on there like, I can't go faster than this. And they're just like, "Beep, beep." Like, it's just like, oh, man, it happened today, and like I yeah, I just try my best to like know the roads where I'm going to and kind of stay in the far right lane as best I can without that thing turning into an off ramp and just
Dude,
like stay out of people's way, man.
I live in Indianapolis, or right outside Indianapolis. I work downtown Indy, and I was leaving my job to go to school. I'm going to school for something, and traffic is jammed up. Everybody's cutting everybody off, weaving and bobbing, and a woman is in front of me and gets cut off. Whatever, slam the brakes. We just keep her moving. She throws it in park, hops out the car, runs up to the person that cut them off, and
Crazy.
starts to beat on the window and was like, "You just cut me off." You know, she's cursing. She's doing a lot of hand gestures. And then all of a sudden I hear, as I'm observing this, I'm cracked my window to make sure I don't hear imminent danger that I need to then abandon my vehicle. I hear her say, "Pull over there. I've got mine. We can do this right now." And I was like, is it that deep that like it's murder time? It's like, you've cut me off. Now it's time to die. And it's like,
Yeah,
where have we gotten in society where
it's
that's
rough.
just the move? Like, you
Yep,
know
it's
what?
rough.
You've pissed me off. It's time to draw blood. It's like, what? And it doesn't matter who's in the car, children, wife, old people. Pull your behind over there and catch this butt whooping. What are we doing as a culture?
Bible tells us the love of most will go cold, and we're seeing that. Wars and rumors of wars. We're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of things come to play, man. The chickens are coming to roost. Like we really gotta start locking it in to lightly move forward on that. Um One thing that we've been talking about and we love to hear from you guys in the comments is like are believers doing this thing wrong to a certain extent? Like are we as Bible focused or spiritually focused as we should be? Like, with all this stuff going on in the world, it's our responsibility to be kind of on point and and a beacon and a light on the hill. And like, what are we doing what we're supposed to be doing?
I was thinking about that earlier. And one of the things that, one element of that is persecution. All through history, Christians were rallied up in mass and slaughtered or persecuted in some extent. Now, there were times where there was peace, but like for the most part, the large majority of us from antiquity have been persecuted to death. And so for this long stretch of time, as we've gotten more and more modern, it seems like we don't deal with Christian persecution here. And I wondered this the other day, is it because we've watered it down so much that it no longer offends anybody, that would get somebody that angry at us when we confront them with their sin that they would want to kill us? Have we gotten to this place where we're like, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, don't bother me, I won't bother you, and we'll just live in harmony? And we're supposed to take this fight to the gates of hell. We're supposed to march forward and make disciples and do these things. And I don't know, man. I'm not saying I want persecution, but persecution has always been a sign of a on the right path type of thing. If they're persecuting you as Christ told you they would, it's just always been validity that we're doing something right if they hate us because they hated our king first. So I did think about that. I did think about that the other day about what we've
Mm.
become. So, you lightly mentioned it earlier, and it's the love of most, right? Now, I'm inside of a building more than you, but I still wanted to ask you, do you ever get the whole when you're walking by, you're like, "Oh, good morning," just dead face, keeping it moving, no response, no. Do you get that experience?
Not that much. I'm in the South. So like,
Oh, a
people
little
that for the
Southern
most part,
hospitality.
yeah, they're still for the most part, they'll talk to you and stuff like that. Now, what you'll get is the after effect. Like people like good morning, like good morning. Like, and may I help you? Like, what more do you need from us? It's like, oh, I'm here to, do whatever. And it's like, Like, yeah, you just get this blank look like I'm not the one. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier, knowing a little bit about a lot. Like it's just like I,
Sure.
I need to speak to this person about this specific thing. And here's a reference number. Like it's so crazy the level of communication, how bad communication has gotten between individuals, between corporate level to lower level management and down to the subordinates. Like it is absolutely insane just how much we have developed and the ability to communicate, but the actual skill of communication is just falling by the wayside. We have so many ways of being able to connect with one another that we've forgotten how to actually genuinely connect, and that is scary in itself.
And I gotta admit, I have to think that social media has a lot to do with that. Social media has a ton to do with a lack of skill when it comes to actually engaging socially in person with somebody. I think it's ironic that it's called social media because the only socializing you're doing is through electronics. You're not doing
Hmm.
it in real time. And so, like, here, let me tell you a pet peeve of mine. And it's become a pet peeve of mine now that I work in a building day in and day out. And it goes like this, right? You see a person and they see you and they're waiting to get on the elevator with you, right? Nothing was in their hand up to this point. They were full stride doing their thing. The moment that they come close to you, phone is out. I have peeped people just to see what was so important at that moment once you got in the elevator with me so you didn't have to engage me, pulled the phone up. Some people are just scrolling their settings. They're not looking at anything. They are doing nothing. They are just, I don't want to engage this person in small talk. So that's the general settings. And yep, and my screen display, and there's my floor. What? Is that where we are? I've even went a step further and been like, "Hey man, how's it going?" And you can just see it on their face. It's going it's going good, man. Thanks for asking. That all you needed? You just
I
feel
hear you.
that.
I
It's
hear you. I hear
it's
you
such a
and
pet peeve of mine
engage.
now.
I hear you engage in small talk from time to time because like we try to be on the phone with each other as much as we possibly can during the day because it's just crazy. Like you get like I'm not gonna go there. So I hear the conversations sometimes. Just count your lucky stars that you didn't live in New Jersey or the tri-state area where you say hi to people and they like, don't talk to me. Like, yo, you wave at somebody and you get the middle finger. I know what you know what
I
that's like there.
experienced that.
Oh yeah,
First
yeah,
time I
yeah.
go to New Jersey, I'm from the Midwest. It's called Midwest Nice. So like we're for the most part, we're not Southern hospitality nice, but we try. I go
Yep.
to New Jersey and I'm being stared at, just locked on by a woman in the parking lot. So I'm cordial. I say, "Hey, good morning." Give her a wave. I get full bird, and it's not real quick and put it down. It's give it and stare.
Lay
Like I
there.
need you to see everything going on here. And I'm like, wow, that I am not used to up in here.
It's a different animal, man. Like in New Jersey, you don't talk to anybody unless you're spoken to. And whoever takes the first time to say something, like they're going out on a limb. You're either gonna like meet their gaze or they might go pop the trunk, yo. You never
You know what
know.
we need to do?
You just
We need
never
to set
know.
aside some time to go do some ministry up in New Jersey. What do you think? Just do some street ministry up there.
Let's get it, buddy.
So
We need to go
you,
ahead and do a tour. Right after that, we'll go to Chirac. I mean Chicago.
that would be something interesting to do to do like a to do shows like to do a podcast show in different cities. I don't even know how we would do that or how big we have to be to do such a thing, but I think that would be pretty neat. Anyway, but it's such a big pet peeve, and it's so interesting how far people will go out of their way to not engage with you. When I Tyreek's from the South, or he's in the South now. So when I say hello to some people, I will get nothing. Keep it moving, eyes straight ahead, no acknowledgement. Sometimes you even get this face like, how dare you? It is every bit of 7 o'clock, and I have not had caffeine yet. How dare you? And it's just, I, it's just so hard to be friendly, but in the same breath, it's so easy to shine bright because at this point, it's so dark that just you being pleasant is being different at this point, which 100 years ago wasn't like that. You had to do something even more. But now I could blend into the crowd like a regular. All I got to do is put my phone in my face, and it's like gray man. I just fade into the background. I just look like everybody else. These
Yeah.
phones, and I have one. It's not like I don't have one, so I know what comes with it. It has caused people to, as ironic as it is, the phones and social media was supposed to help you connect. It is the biggest proponent of disconnect that I believe is out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is
Mm-hmm.
it disconnects you from reality. It disconnects you from family. It disconnects you from God. It disconnects you from the Word. And all of these things you can get on there, but it's almost like it's, I don't know, like an illusion. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like it's not real.
The
But
world within the world.
it's like the I don't even know how to. It's like a word. Yeah, like you said, it's like the looking glass within the looking glass. It's this
Mm-hmm.
weird thing that we're so interested on just everything because we're bombarded with so much, right? Everything's
It's
interesting. Yeah, how many
it's a
times have you
big
been on? Hold on. How many
God.
times have you been in the restroom scrolling through something and been like, "What am I doing? What am I doing in some of this? Like, what am I even watching? Like, what am I looking at?" It's just, it's wild.
Absolutely. I had completely forgot where I was going with it, so
I'm
that's my
sorry.
bad.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no bad, no problem. I
But,
forgot where I was going with it.
be encouraged, guys and girls. Just know that your kindness and love is not going to be reciprocated. It's just not. And that's not part of why we do it, so that it can be reciprocated. We do it because we're supposed to show Jesus. And one of the things I wanted to close with tonight was, how are we still able to do our daily devotions in a world that is so full of distraction? How are you keeping yourself grounded in the word and in prayer with the phones and the world and your own desires? Like, what are you guys doing, if anything at all? I'm not coming at you. I'm just saying, if anything at all, to make sure that you're still devoted to Him and setting aside time. I would encourage all of you to do this. Whatever it is, morning, noon, or night, find a time, put the phone down. Don't use the phone. Don't use the phone as your Bible. It's too distracting. I'm sorry. It's just too much. It's too much. There's too much going on that thing to stay focused on the
Mm-hmm.
on the Bible app. The Bible app's good for in the car or on a jog or something, but get in the Word, be in the Word, stay in the Word, and be in His courts. Tyreek, did you have anything else you wanted to put in there before we close tonight?
If it's possible, get you an accountability partner. Get you somebody that's
Yeah.
gonna reach out to you and maybe not tell you, "Hey, get in the word," but like, "Hey, I'm in the word." Make sure, like if you got some time, just crack that thing open or something like that. Just
Mhm.
sometimes, just a reminder would be like, "Oh yeah, I definitely got to do that." Like Walter said, there's just distraction everywhere. It's everywhere, and you have to be hyper focused and intentional and consistent as best you possibly can. And consistency is a bad, like, not being consistent is a huge problem out here. It's just a big problem. So like little things like that, like Walter said, um you know like giving people the greeting of the day, sharing a Bible verse or something like that with somebody. Just little things. Can I pray with you? Consistency, checking in on people. Hey, just making sure, all those kind of things is the kind of stuff that's gonna, like, you just never know that, like, you could be that one thing that people are like, I'm glad this person is around. Like in the sea of all this nonsense, this person is just a joy and stuff like that. That could totally lead to a conversation about Christ and hopefully pull some people out of hell. So just be intentional about your walk. Be open and be present and where you are. Don't get in your phone. Don't just sink into something and look down at. Be available and ready to have that kind of conversation.
It's a good point. And just remember, there's a lot of distractions, and they're all expensive. You understand? Everything is expensive out there. So stay grounded, stay in the Word, stay in Christ. We love you. We ask the Lord bless you wherever you are, guys. We can't wait to come back with you on the other podcast we're going to have. So we love you. God bless you.
God bless.